In this video, I'll be going over the concept of managing your stop loss in terms of trade management. We will be going over a couple of examples where the use of stop loss management within a trade has helped us get out of tricky situations and helped us guarantee as much profit as possible. But before we get into it, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and follow me on Instagram to keep up to date with what I do on a day-to-day basis. So let's start off with some top-down analysis. So for this pair, with Euro USD, what we can see is we have an imbalance to the downside. So we have an imbalance over here, and I'm going to mark that out right now. We have an imbalance, and I know that I want to target this imbalance for price to move into. Now, dropping down to the lower time frames, what we can see is the imbalance over here in a little bit more detail, but also the fact that we have some liquidity here. Now, what I'm doing now is I'm building my bias to why I want to take trades to the downside. And so now looking up here, I am looking for some sort of entry draw or entry confirmation. And we can see we've had multiple breaks of structure. So we have this structural break over here, and we've just had this structural break over here. So what I'm anticipating is price to pull back up to the upside, tap into what looks like an unmitigated order block over here, and then we can take some shorts. So let me just mark out this order block, and now we can see what price is going to do for us. So again, we push up and we tap into our order block, and we are now triggered into sells. So the whole purpose of this video is to go over stop loss management when in a trade. So this does come into the, let's say, segment of trade management, but it is mainly focusing on stop loss management. So when it comes to managing your stop loss, or if you're taking a trade and you're unsure about how much profit you're able to take from the trade, or what your target should be, or where your target could be, then this is a good method that you can use in order to maximize your return from the market using a guaranteed stop loss profit system. So what we want to do is we want to move our stop loss once we get breaks of structure in our direction, or in the direction of your trade. What I mean by this is when price breaks this low over here, we are going to automatically move our stop loss to break even. So let me just mark out this break of structure, and right now I'll mark out the stop loss that is at break even. So now our stop loss is at break even, and the position that we are in is risk free. What we want next is we want price to then go and come back and break this low over here. As we can see, this low finally gets taken out at this point after price has a nice pullback and taps into here. This gives us a nice scale in opportunity if you wanted to jump back into another position. But what we can see at this point here is we can now move our stop loss from this point, from break even to over here, so just above this high. So now what we can see is we have a guaranteed profit from this trade of around 3R, which is fantastic. Again, we can see price pushes up, and now we want price to break this low. And once we break this low, we're going to move our stop loss from here to just above this wick. And again, we get the same thing. So we can move it to this point. Now, again, like I said, because we are unsure where our target would be, let's just continue with this method until we get stopped out. Again, we break this low, stops above this high now. Now, obviously, how far above the high, that is subjective to you. Sometimes you'll put it really close and then get stopped out. Sometimes you'll give it a little bit of breathing room and you don't get stopped out. And that all depends on what you want to do and what your risk profile is and how tight you want your stop loss to be to the lower high. Continuing on then, we now want this low to be taken out, and it looks like it's going to be. Let's see. It is. And we are waiting for a pullback before price continues into here. So with this low, we are here, and then with this low, we are now moving our stop loss to, let's say, about here. And let's see what happens. Did we get taken out? Oh, just about not taken out. So let's see what happens. Did we get taken out now? Yep. Okay, so now we're taken out. So now what we can say is, from a trade where we had no idea what the maximum profit we can reap out of the position was, we ended up taking a nice amount of 11.4R from this position. And this just goes to show that when you're in a trade where you don't know what your profit target could be, just by trailing your stop and using this stop loss system, you can reap a good amount of guaranteed profit out of your trade. Now let's move on to a secondary example of where I show you how this stop loss method can help you in times of unexpected fundamental news. So this was actually a trade that I took yesterday on Euro GBP, and what I was looking for was an Asia low liquidity sweep and then price to rally to the Asia high. So if I just put that on very quickly, so we take the liquidity below Asia low and then we rally to take Asia high. So that was what I wanted to happen for this trade. Price came and broke above these structural points over here, telling me that we have a breaker structure, and all I was looking for was a pullback to an extreme order block such as this one over here, and then I was ready to take the trade. So I took the trade at this point when price came into my order block with my stops not far from the bottom of the order block, factoring in spread and giving it a bit of breathing room. Let's see what happens as I enter the trade. So the trade starts off and we can see we have a good reaction, and then price starts to consolidate a little bit. Because it is a system trade for me, this is a trade that I will take over and over again. And what I'm doing now is we can see that price has started to move in my direction, and I'm feeling a lot more confident about this trade. We then get this push up here. Now when this push up happens, I am able to finally move my stops to break even, given that the fact that price had messed around my entry before pushing away, and pushing away quite impulsively, which is a good sign. I was then waiting for price to break this high and then looking at what I could do with my stops at this point. But because price had messed around, my stop would have probably moved just into profit around here somewhere. And then we get CPI unexpected news come through. Because of my stop loss system that I have and I use for most of my trades, and luckily I used for this trade yesterday, it was able to get me out of this position at break even and not a loss. So there you have it. You have seen two examples of how a stop loss system can benefit you. One in terms of if you don't know what the target of your trade is, and the other to protect yourself against unexpected news events and random price behavior. So thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button. Again, follow me on Instagram. My handle will be on the screen right now, and I will see you in the next video.